Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hormone Helper podcast. I'm Coach Andrew, your hormone helper from Fit for All Fitness. I personally coach over 1,600 men and women to help better understand their hormones so they can lose weight and get their metabolism back on track. With this podcast, you're going to hear from me and my special guests about everything from metabolism to thyroid to weight loss. And we even talk a little bit of sexy time as we chat to spread more knowledge thick like butter on your hormones. If you're ready to learn, I'm ready to share, so let's do this. Hey everyone, welcome back to another podcast. I am finally back in Canada after spending 2 weeks in the amazing and beautiful country of Japan. So I'm so incredibly grateful that I was able to go, and also very excited to share with you my experience being part of a whole different culture. So there were a lot of things that we got to do, which was totally fun. Me and my wife got to experience a sumo wrestling practice, and watching these, and I will call them athletes because they truly are, watching these guys wrestle each other, throw each other against the wall, grapple, but watching a sport that's like over close to like, I think 1,000 years that they used to practice this. It was absolutely incredible. We got to experience Tokyo and see Tokyo Tower. We got to go to Kyoto and go see Mount Fuji, which was amazing. During our time in Kyoto, we spent some time learning how to be a samurai, how to wield a samurai sword, which was really cool. And then we got to visit Osaka as well. And Osaka is where we got to go visit the Golden Pagoda. We got to do Osaka go-karts, like almost like Mario Kart, where we dressed up in costumes, and then basically they had us they gave us the run of the road, and we were able to pretty much like drive anywhere. It was honestly phenomenal. And then like what really put the cherry on top for Japan was me and Lorna getting the opportunity to go to Nintendo World. I was so excited to go there. We played every Mario game possible, and it was great. So just being there, seeing the experience, like I learned so many powerful life lessons while being there. And this is why I want to like tell everyone that they have to make an effort to travel more. Like if you don't travel, you need to be traveling more. And I believe that most people truly don't know what they have or what they experience until you actually go and you look through the lens of someone else and you embody another type of culture or another person's way of living, even if it's temporary. Because one of the things that I really, really value from Japan is their essence of community. Everything that they're doing because they want to join with each other. Like trains are never late. They're on time every single time. We actually had a train person apologize because they had a 10-second delay, which was insane. Could you imagine getting a notification over a speaker being like, hey, we sincerely apologize. We're 10 seconds behind. And I was like, did I hear that right? And they're like, yep, 10 seconds because of a broken door. Something out of their control, and they still apologize for it because they work hard to give the community access. Now, that being said, with the community being so clean, with there not being any garbage anywhere, with everyone always being so willing to help you, it takes a lot of time to make that happen for a community. And people work 14-hour, 16-hour days as a regular 7 days a week. Even my instructor, my Japanese instructor that we went to go see in Osaka, he took a day off to come and visit us to spend the afternoon with us. And I asked when the last time he took a vacation was, and he said, you are my first vacation day in 3 years. And that's just normal. So I think oftentimes we discredit how much we have and the possibility that we have to grow, because there are people who work a lot harder than us for a lot less. But that's a completely different side note. I just wanted to share with you guys how excited I was being in Japan, and how much has kind of changed since coming back, right? Now, in this episode especially, I want to share with you the mindset needed to be driven for a goal, but also like what it takes to never give up on your dreams or what you're trying to achieve. So the difference is this, okay? The first part requires you to have courage for the goal. And then the second part requires for you to have commitment. You need both in order to achieve whatever goal that you're trying to set out, especially if it is something that has been a long time challenge for you. So why do I want to talk about this? Okay. Well, as a coach, I spend a lot of time talking to people about the frustrations of trying to hit a goal and yet not being able to do it on their own. Like just within the few days that I've been back, I had a consult with a woman who's gained 40 pounds since COVID started. I had a conversation with a woman with PCOS who'd gained weight even though she's been eating really healthy. And I've had 2 people join the Hormone Reboot program. Okay. One was for, I think, really bad bloating, if I recall. And then the other one with an off cycle. And they've both been spending years trying different diets to feel better and gain more energy. Now, every single one of these people have different goals, but they shared with me their struggle in the exact same way. And it goes like this. Okay. They all say to me, so Andrew, I'm here because I've struggled with this for years. I've tried different diets. I've tried training. I've tried supplements. I've worked with naturopaths, but I feel like I'm really missing something. And that is why I haven't hit my goal. I'm getting super frustrated and it's getting really hard for me to stay in the zone anymore, for me to actually try to work towards this. Okay. And that's why I'm not motivated. That's why I'm not focused. That's why I'm losing track. This is completely normal. And it's a perfect regular part of you setting and achieving goals. Okay. I believe it was actually Denzel Washington who said, dreams without goals are just dreams and they lead ultimately to disappointment. And I completely agree with him. To be the kind of person to have a dream of something or a goal, it's not enough. Many people dream of fitting into a beautiful bikini, yet they never actually take the time to work out or do anything about it. Many people dream of being able to run marathons or starting their own businesses, but you know what? They never actually build a business plan. They never actually talk to the bank. They don't take action. Okay. But do you have the courage to follow through with that dream and that goal? To be able to take the chance, the risk, and I think the young folks call it shooting your shot, because like Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And going for a goal or a dream, it takes courage. And courage is the power and the ability to do something that frightens you, to build up strength, even in the face of potential pain or failure. Because guess what? There's never a guarantee with most dreams. You're not guaranteed to hit it. And I want to share this with you because every single time I hear a client's goal or they tell me a dream of a future when they can walk their daughter down the aisle or live past the age that their father died, I feel and I see the energy and the drive that's needed for that dream and that goal to work. And if you've never felt or seen this type of energy before, you will right now. Because I'm going to share with you the dream and a goal of an amazing man that I met within Japan that has the courage of literally 3 grown men. Okay. So me and Lorna went to go check out a sumo practice. To start, we almost didn't make the practice because of some scheduling stuff, but we were able to make it work because it was really important to me. I wanted to watch these guys practice. And in going to the sumo ring, traditionally, sumo wrestlers have to be from Japan. It was only like the past 20 years that they started letting foreigners wrestle in sumo. And it was actually the past 5 years where they actually started letting women to like step into the ring, not to wrestle, but to even like show up and watch the fights and be a part of the experience. It's a very old and traditional sport. And when I went to practice, we sat in the seats. We were about literally 3 feet away from the ring, so close that these guys could literally throw another wrestler onto us, which was insane because I was like, this is like dangerous. But anyways, I'm watching, I'm completely enthused. And there's a guy in the backhand corner, okay, complete orange and red hair, not from Japan, not Japanese. This guy looked like he was almost Irish or some type of other ethnicity. The ethnicity doesn't matter. I just saw and I was like, you are not from here. So that intrigued me right off the bat because not every single person gets selected to be a sumo wrestler. You see, in order to be a sumo wrestler, first of all, you have to start young because there's a cap age, and I'll tell you about the cap age later. You have to start young. And then the second thing is most people have to be from there. And then the third thing is you have to find a stable, and the stable is kind of like the coach or where they train. I don't know why they call them stables. They like treat them like horses or something. But you have to find a stable and a stable master willing to take you in for you to be able to train. But I saw this guy and he was there and he was a foreigner and he was practicing sumo. So immediately that intrigued me. And you know what I saw for the next hour that this training was? I saw himself give it his all. These guys are not just fat, overweight people like you see in some of the pictures. These guys may be very large, but they have a lot of muscle. They move very quick. They can literally throw you. I tried to push one at the end, and there's a video that I'll kind of link in the show notes to this podcast, and I was unsuccessful. I could not move this guy an inch, okay? The one that I had pushed. These guys train very hard for this sport because they live and breathe sumo, because they can make a career at being a sumo wrestler. So these guys are wrestling and they're throwing each other, and every opportunity that this guy has to go into a ring, he's putting his hand up and he's throwing his hand up and he's in there and he's given 100% each and every time. His energy from the start of that practice was the same from his energy at the end. And it wasn't for some of the other sumo wrestlers. Some of them grew tired, some of them fatigued, some of them tapped out and didn't do more and more fights, but he was in it to win it. And so at the end, we had the opportunity, a very unique opportunity, to sit down and to eat what the sumo wrestlers eat and to basically talk with them and ask them questions. So the people at my table, me, Lorna, and another family from a different country, I said, hey, we should ask if that guy could come out because I'm curious to hear his story. I want to know how he got into sumo wrestling and why he's doing this. So man came out, sat down. He's wearing a t-shirt. He's like 3 times my size, probably close to 330 pounds. Massive. Okay. And we were like, hey, noticed you're not from here. Your Japanese is great. Like your English is phenomenal. So what's your story? So he shares with us, he sits down, he talks about 20 minutes with us, and he shares with us that he's a foreigner who served in the Iran military. Started really young, 18, served the military till he was 22, and all his life he wanted to be a sumo wrestler. His father introduced him to sumo wrestling as a kid, and his goal and his dream was to be a sumo wrestler. But in serving that mandatory military service in Iran, then came the years of COVID, where in Japan, because they were very wary, they weren't letting foreign people travel. They weren't letting anybody into the country because, COVID rules and all that stuff. He did everything he could, tried boats, tried legal ways. He said that he even attempted illegal ways, but it didn't work. The point is he tried to get in because he wanted to practice and be a sumo wrestler. But even without practicing in a stable with a sumo coach, he took years of judo. He started taking Japanese lessons to learn Japanese because he was preparing himself for when he could go. Okay. Spending all of his new adult life for that dream to become a sumo wrestler. Then once he was allowed in the country, he found out that there were only 70 sumo stables in the entirety of Japan. Now, having a stable, you don't take everybody. In total, there's only 220 registered sumo wrestlers in all of Japan. So that means that these stables work with a total of 5 to 8 people. Meaning, if you're not it, they don't pick you. And he called every single one. And he reached out to every single one. And it's hard for them to accept him, 1, because he's a foreigner, 2, because he's never done sumo before, and then 3, because a lot of the rules and the restrictions come to age. By the time he made it into Japan, he was 25 years old, and that means he only has 1 year to officially qualify to be a sumo. After 26, you can no longer be a sumo wrestler. And what I mean by that is you can't start the application process to be a part of this. Even though he knows this, even though he knows that it's an uphill battle, he found a stable instructor and a stable that would take him in. And he's been living there and paying his own dime while the other sumo wrestlers have been living there for free, all so that way he could continue to train to become a sumo wrestler. So COVID stopped him from entry for 3 years. Okay. When he entered, no sumo stable would take him because he's not Japanese. finally finds a stable, and then all of a sudden they say, hey, you got a year to make this work. So even though he's not officially a sumo wrestler yet, he still trains 3 to 4 hours a day, every day, sometimes on his own, not just his own dollar, for his dream to become one. And here's why I share this. At 25 years old, he knows that cap is 26. And even though he knows that cap is at 26, he does not give up hope. He tries every single day for this to become his dream, his goal. And he shared something powerful with me. And these words, I'm never going to forget his words. He said, and I wrote them down right after he said them because I was like, I have to share this with you guys. He said, to people who have no dreams, I have nothing to talk with them about, because every single person should have a dream and a goal and do everything they can to reach it. Now, his story touched my heart, not because of the struggle, because I'm sure each and every one of you has our own form of it. It touched me because I know he will become a sumo wrestler. As a matter of fact, I know he will be the greatest sumo to ever live, which is becoming a yokozuna. And I look forward to watching him on TV, knowing every single day that he worked every day towards his dream. Now, do you feel that energy? The energy I'm giving off right now? That is dream energy. And in Japan, they have a name for this. It's called ikigai. Remember that ikigai, a term which combines the words passion, purpose, dream, and life's work. It's the type of energy that leaves you feeling energized when you wake up. It's the kind of energy that gets you fired up and gives you momentum for the next challenge. Because here's the thing, you see, people who want to put the work in will always have the fruits of their labor rewarded. But there are also a lot of people that I talk to that do have goals, and these people want to achieve their dreams, but they they kind of failed. Why'd they fail? Don't get me wrong. As scary as it is to commit to something that you've never done, especially when you've tried before and you failed. And maybe this is where you're at. Like, you have a goal in your life, you have a goal for your health and fitness, you want to lose the weight, you want to get back into shape, and you're afraid of taking another shot at it. And it could be that you've tried 4 to 5 different diets for weight loss, and none of them worked for you. It could be that you've tried working with a coach or a naturopath already to help you out with your digestion or hormones, but all the supplements, they just didn't do anything. Heck, maybe you've been strength training for years and you know every move, but you've been stuck at this plateau, never lifted a heavier weight for 2 to 3 years. That can be really painful. And I actually had a jiu-jitsu mentor who used to tell me that pain equals compliance. Meaning that if something hurts too much, if something's too hard for us, we're actually going to stop and surrender because we don't want to go through the pain anymore. So, how do we have courage? What gives courage like that future sumo wrestler had? Because he had a shit ton of courage. How can we get more courage to hit our goals? Well, truth is that nothing gives courage. Courage is like a muscle. You have to use it every single day and get used to flexing and holding it like you would holding a contraction with a weight. And at first, working a new muscle is hard because guess what? You feel sort of sore and it makes you not want to do it. But over time, that muscle becomes strong and then you start to enjoy flexing it and you start to enjoy using it. And with almost every single client that I work with, building their courage muscle is a secret thing that I do with them. I don't really tell them that I'm doing it, but I build repetitions with them in every group call we do by having them learn something new and then apply it immediately. I have it in their workouts by increasing their reps or putting in different moves than what they're comfortable with, forcing them to grow and work on areas where they're weak. And I have them talk and work through their own self-sabotage by teaching them boundaries and then challenging them to apply those new boundaries in their work and their family areas of their life. With that, their courage muscle grows. They begin to get comfortable being uncomfortable. They know that at any moment, for any reason, Coach Andrew is going to shoot over a message that's, hey, now I've got to turn my world upside down and make accommodations. And so they learn to build a game plan and a routine that can't be destroyed by life. Having a strong courage muscle means becoming unfuckwithable, Nothing is going to set you back on your goals. Things like diet, then they fall into place because we can change food as needed to hit your goals. Things like exercising regularly, well, they become a breeze because you aren't stuck at a plateau and you start to like the way the workouts make you feel. You even have consistent and dedicated schedule and routine because with life being unpredictable, you're going to have non-negotiables already in your calendar that you aren't willing to move week over week. Now, here's the important part. With courage, you can't ever make your dream or your goal smaller. Don't ever do that, because if you do, you're telling yourself that you are willing to settle. And people who settle out of fear. And if you fear, you lose more courage. You weaken that muscle. And this is where you have to look at and develop your relationship with failure. So here's my question to you. What does your relationship with failure look like? Like, for example, on our trip, I was actually told by our travel agent that we couldn't go see the sumo match because the travel agency kind of screwed up and switched up a tour day, making our Mount Fuji day on the same day. Man, when I found this out, I was devastated. I kept telling Lorna the whole day how down and frustrated I was that they could have made this mistake. And what was worse was when I asked the travel agent if there was another time or place for sumo, she said she couldn't find another spot. There were no other times. Basically, we couldn't see the sumo for the trip. Now, in that moment, I thought to myself, I can have what I want. And the only thing I can do is just suck it up and go to Mount Fuji and try to enjoy my trip. Game, set, and match, right? No. It was actually Lorna who said to me, look, you always tell me we can't just give up. So if you want to go to sumo, we should call and we should check around ourselves. After all, if you don't ask, you don't get. If you don't try, you don't get. So I took a couple of minutes to think that over, and I was like, why didn't I call myself? Why didn't I think of reaching out to other sumo locations to see if there was another slot available? And in that moment, I almost stopped at the first failure. But what was my goal? My goal was to see a match or a practice. And I'll tell you the truth, a part of me was very hesitant to call because I did not want to reach out to other sumo spots and potentially hear the word no or it's too full over and over again. But for some reason, there was a part of me that just said, call them because you're going to regret it if you don't. So I picked up the phone. I called the place in which the booking got screwed up. I told them what happened. And I said, is there any chance that you have any other date to come and see practice? And I waited. They put me on hold. Worst thing, put me on hold. Goodness. I felt like an eternity. I was like, oh man, they're going to hop on the phone. They're going to say it's not there. But I was like, nope, I'm going to stick with it. She kept checking a different thing. And then literally in 5 minutes, I had a new time slot available for sumo the very next day. And do you know how excited I was that I finally got what I wanted, that the goal was in sight? I finally felt like I was on top of the world, all because I had the courage to make a 5-minute call, risk hearing the word no, and I risked the potential to fail, but in return, I had huge success. And you can have huge success too. You might be one tough decision away from feeling and being your absolute best. After all, making one choice on food or something like food can be the difference between losing weight or not. Taking the time to do 15 or 20 more minutes of activity in the week could be the difference between you losing weight or building more muscle. Even the choice to cut the Netflix out at night and go to bed 1 hour early each day could be the difference between waking up feeling refreshed versus waking up and feeling super burnt out. Now, here's the thing though, and there's a second part to courage, and this is where most people stop, and that's being consistent. I'll tell you something, it's not enough to have courage and to put yourself first just one time. Just like that sumo wrestler. It's like people who don't have goals and who don't work towards goals, I have nothing to talk about. It's not enough to put yourself first just one time. You then have to commit to keep that change in order to see the results that you want. And I work with clients every day who use their desires and courage to start the process, but it's the commitment that shows the results. You see, when you are committed to eating healthy, for example, you make the choice every day not to eat fast food, to not buy prepackaged products, to eat organic, and to do your best to watch what goes into your mouth. Your commitment comes in the form of being proactive every day around food. You have your meal prep twice a week in your schedule. You never skip breakfast or miss a meal because of work. You also stick to the food that you prepped because you know that you took time to make it. It's this level of commitment where the clients that work with us start to see the best results. Weight comes down 2 to 3 pounds per week. They start feeling light with a high amount of energy. Their bloating, their digestive issues start to go away. But it takes consistent action. And you have to be committed to that action to see progress. In using another example from my trip, many of you guys don't know that I took Japanese lessons for a whole year in order to be able to go there and fully experience the best trip of my life. I have never learned another language before, which is crazy. I do not have a Japanese background, clearly. And while I didn't have any experience and I wasn't sure if I would succeed, I worked hard every week, taking 2 to 3 lessons and studying so that way I could learn how to navigate and speak in Japan. Now imagine doing lessons for a whole year, not being sure if you speak great, only being able to communicate with one person, which was the coach that you hired. I studied alone, and it could have been easy every single week to say to myself, I'll do it next week. I got a year from now for my trip. Next week, I'll start to learn. Next week, I'll apply the lesson that my instructor taught me. But that is not me. When I start something, I finish it. When I learn something, I learn it to remember and to apply, not just to check the box off to say that I did it. And my instructor told me this. He said to me right out of the gate, a year is only going to be enough to get you to the basics. And I told him right then and there, I'm not just learning for this trip coming up in a year. I'm learning this for life. I'm here to learn Japanese. I will learn from you. I'm going to take your knowledge and I'm going to work towards being fluent. Maybe not in a year. Guess what? I wasn't fluent, but that's okay because our trip was phenomenal and I made it work. And how's my commitment doing now? Well, I'm still doing my Tuesday lessons and I still study twice a week, even though the initial goal of the trip and the jump start and the courage to try to learn Japanese is over. You see, in choosing to be consistent, I teach myself in my brain very important lessons. The first lesson is this, that if I want it, it can be mine, but I've got to work for it because nothing comes to you in this life for free. You've got to trade emotional energy. You have to trade time. You have to invest and trade money. But the biggest things that you have to trade, you got to trade all three for. But in making that investment, you grow the most important investment that you will ever have in your entire life. And do you know what that is? It's you. You are the biggest investment. You are the most precious and worthwhile thing that you can ever think of. After all, there is only one of you. And when you start to think of it that way, your goals and your dreams change. The things you focus on change. And the stuff that you shouldn't be doing anymore changes also because you become focused. This is deciding, or what I like to call deciding. That's what a mentor told me. You strip away the sides from every other choice and you work towards solely your goal, just like that sumo wrestler. And it's crazy because I see this mindset develop and grow with every single person that we work with. Our Vantage program is one of the strongest containers for this, where every single person is dead set on losing the weight and keeping it off for good. They're dead set on never having another bloated day in their life. They're dead set on sleeping a full night and waking up feeling like you could road runner for days. But success takes courage to start. You got to do the thing that makes you uncomfortable. And if you're having a hard time doing that on your own, this is why coaching exists. Imagine having me in your corner so you never had to worry about what food you're eating, or never have to worry about if your workouts are going to be okay for your knees or your joints, or having someone to reach out to say, hey, I just had a terrible day. I'm off point. And then all of a sudden I give you the power back so you can hop back on the horse and hit your goal. Now I'm going to leave you with this for the end of this episode. This is the second piece of this, okay? Real courage is asking for help. And real commitment is keeping a promise to yourself and to others. It's the truest form of success and the truest form of love. If you love yourself, you will stay consistent. If you care about your goal, you're going to keep working at it. And you're not going to care about whether or not someone tells you you succeed. You're not going to care whether you hear no because you're all in. And being all in is what courage and consistency starts. It's the courage to do the thing even if you don't have evidence. and building the evidence along the way to know that you can succeed. Where are you not being courageous? Where are you losing your commitment? Because if you don't have either in any form for any reason, you're not going to see the results that you want. Doesn't matter if you change your food, doesn't matter if you work on the activity, doesn't matter if you're working on your schedule, that shit will always fall apart. If you do not have a strong desire and the courage to keep going, and if you're not committed to your goal. Thanks for tuning into this episode. Apply that courage, apply the commitment, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye. Well, it seems I'm all out of info juice for today. That's all for this episode, and thank you so much for listening. Please leave a raving review for me if you've learned something good, and make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Now, if you're in the mood for some more great content and tools to get your hormones on track, why not check out our free Facebook group and the blog on our site? We do amazing weekly trainings in our group that me and my wife call Tea and Teachings that give good tips for anything hormones and metabolism related. It's also a great community where you get to share your goals and success with like-minded people just like you. I'll make sure to drop both the Facebook group link and the blog link in the show notes for you. Or if you're ambitious like me, the name of the group is Weight Loss and Balanced Hormones. It'll say Fit for All beside it with a picture of me. So come and join us and have more fun.